News headline update at the bottom of the hour. Time now to return to that conversation that Leanne had before the news, and that's about Women's Month coming to an end, and of course speaking to women in the legal profession. Some very interesting sentiments being shared, so over to you, Leanne.
Thanks very much, Sakina. Let's just wrap up this conversation. It was a tough one to end hanging like that. I mean, we were hearing quite a few issues that are being experienced by women in the legal fraternity, but amazingly, these seem to be echoed in every other industry as well, that of patriarchy, misogynistic behaviour, particularly in these big law firms. Well, I just want to end off the conversation now and give our guests the opportunity to make closing remarks for us, because I think it is important, particularly when we look to future generations as well, and that of mentoring and how things are looking going forward, because we do know the strides that have been made to date, but it's still a very, very long way to go, as we've gathered from this morning. But just to wrap it up is, of course, Natasha Moni from Moni Attorneys Incorporated, Advocate Fezeka Machano, who's the Deputy Chairperson of the Black Lawyers Association, and Fiziwe Pungula, who's a Director at the Mqedisi Ndlovu and Sedumedi Attorneys. So, Fiziwe, let me come to you as we wrap up this conversation. I mean, so much has been said. We haven't even touched on the issues of going through and mentoring the younger, upcoming legal practitioners in the country. You yourself look like one, but you know, these are definitely things that we need to focus on. But let's wrap it up. Talk about what it is that you feel needs to change in this industry, and some closing thoughts for us. Fiziwe, if I may ask you just to unmute your microphone there.
Oh, sorry about that.
No
thank you, Leanne. And thank you for the compliment. I'm not that young. But Leanne, what I can say is that what I've experienced, the challenge that we are having, especially from a black firm, is that you will find that clients, SOEs or state-owned, or the state will be, when we are handling matters, they will be challenging our capacity, or they will have an issue that as a black firm, you don't have a capacity to handle a particular matter. I think that is it's a problem in our profession. Then they always want to match us with the big firms. We're not given an opportunity to prove that we have the legal expertise that other big firms have. But in relation to transformation, I can say that there is progress in the transformation, because you can see, I'm here today as a director, which is a sign that there is progress, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
So we still need to support young females. As females in the profession, we need to support other upcoming females. And we also need support from our counterparts, the male colleagues. But we still have a long way to go.
We certainly do, but if we look at numbers, and if you don't know the answer, it's not a problem, and we'll ask our other guests if they do. But I mean, when we look at the ratio of basically males versus females in this industry, how are we looking? How are we weighing up? I mean, yes, we spoke at the highest level in a court. We've gone from 2 females to 4 females in the years, which is still very, very low. But in general, are the numbers growing and increasing in the legal fraternity?
Leanne, the numbers, the males professionals are still dominating the profession. It's a fact. I might not have the specific number, but when you look at the university students, there are so many females who are in the LLB or who are in the LLB departments. But after university and you go to articles, that's when you start to see the decrease of females in the profession. Yeah. Then after admission, then the females are much fewer than male counterparts. So it is a fact. And if you look at even when you look at the matters in the Constitutional Court, the advocates that are arguing the matters, it's mostly, or if not at all, it's only males.
Yeah.
The gap is there.
And that's where you start asking the questions why. Because I mean, when you start seeing those numbers suddenly dropping, is it related to family issues and other issues that women can't handle those pressures in terms of the balance, or is it just that females are not really wanted in this industry? I mean, these are the questions that we need to get to the bottom of. Why do those numbers start dwindling?
I don't think it's about the females not being able to handle. I think it's more about the females not being given an opportunity and being accommodated in the profession. But it's not about us not being able to handle both duties, the family duties, and being a professional. I think as the whole fraternity is not really accommodating females. We have long hours. We have there's a lot of pressure. So females need to be accommodated. But other than that, even when we get instructions, the state or the clients must be able to say, please work with the female advocate on this matter. So it needs everyone. It needs in our profession, it needs from business to the legal profession. We must all support the empowerment of women.
Absolutely, absolutely. That very beautifully put, Fiziwe. Thank you. Thanks very, very much for talking to us on the program. Natasha, let me come to you just very quickly for some closing remarks as well, if there's anything that you would like to add to this conversation.
I'd like to add and dovetail on to what Fiziwe has to say, because it is very important. You know, when you get to a position of being a partner or maybe a senior associate in a firm, or perhaps even a managing partner, you're at a typical position in your life where you want to also start having children. You'd be lucky if you had your children very young. You possibly have your children much older, when you don't have that much energy any longer. And the first thing that your partners or the senior partner or CEO of the firm will say, well, what are you going to do about it? You know, I mean, what are you going to do about it? What do you do about it when you have to have children? This is a brevity that comes with being female. And it should not be parked for another day, and it should not be there should not be a difference. I, for instance, had my second child literally on the arbitration table in one of my matters, and we even laughed and giggled about it when it went to the Labour Appeal Court, because at that time she was 5 years old. So it is your ability, your reason, your why as to why you are doing it, and it doesn't start when you become an attorney. It starts before you become an attorney. When you go to university and you have to face all those hurdles, why are you doing this? You cannot go into law to make money. You cannot go into law to be famous. That is really for the brevity of very, very few. You need to have something substantial to drive you, some form of inspiration to drive you, regardless of or male, because we're all in this together.
Indeed.
And only the collective will make law great in this country. And so far, so good. But we need more. And as I said, we need parity. And we'll get there. But we need strength of conviction to do it.
No more baby steps. We need leaps and bounds now. We certainly do. Natasha Moni, thank you very much, from Moni Attorneys Incorporated. And then finally, very quickly, Advocate, if you don't mind just having the final word for us on I suppose, to wrap up this conversation.
Thank you, Leanne. You know, I was just sitting back and I'm thinking, you know, when we need more women, because we need more voices to represent a woman perspective, because whenever there's an absence of women, the patriarchy and such ills are the order of the day. One thing that needs to be understood is that competence is directly tied to experience. No one was ever born with a law report in their hands. It's the kind of matters that come on your table that give you that experience. Then you become competent and your confidence grows. What I want to propose, I have proposed this before to the Premier of the Gauteng province, and it seemed as if we were on the same page, but for some reason there were agreements that a panel is needed urgently. That was about 2-3 years ago, to put together the issues related to the legal fraternity, because it seems as if government has another idea of what is actually happening in the profession, while we see another perspective. The best thing is for all of us to come together and to find a lasting solution. Okay. Because as long as the issue of transformation is being postponed, it is also linked to the postponement of access to justice. Because if the majority of the people are not represented by the kind of people that understand them, you are still going to find a lot of issues relating to injustices that go on unabated.
All right.
It is a very sad state of affairs. The brain drain is the most frustrating thing for me, because I understand how much important it is to have more women. We lack women in the profession. We need more women. But when you see many leaving the profession, it's very painful. I'm thinking, the time we have now, it was quite small today, and we cannot exhaust all the issues.
Not at all.
There's just so much. There's just so much, Leanne. And I think we need this conversation now to go on a bigger platform.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be made louder. And it's not only just our profession. We are also talking with other females. And it's not just females only, Lee, and it's just that with females, the issue is much more harder.
Absolutely.
Because Advocate, you know that we are the face of poverty, we are the face of a whole lot of things.
Advocate, we hear you. We certainly do hear you, and like you say, I wish we could just continue this conversation, but we need to unfortunately wrap it. But I think you have raised so many vital points, and it's a great thing to dig deeper into them. It certainly is one that's given us some food for thought this morning. We leave it there. Have to wrap. We've got to move on with the program. There's so much more we need to get in.